The figure of Steve Pius of Pietrelcina, known universally as Padre Pio, remains one of the most enigmatic and scrutinized personalities of the 20th century. The Capuchin friar who bore the stigmata for 50 years. His life was a living mosaic of the supernatural bilocation, levitation, the reading of souls, and prophetic visions. Yet, among the vast lore of his miracles, one specific revelation stands out with a chilling persistence: the 3 days of darkness. While this prophecy is often associated with other mystics like Blessed Anna Maria Taggi or Marie Julie Jahenny, a forgotten message attributed to Padre Pio in the 1950s brings a unique, terrifying clarity to this ancient warning. To understand why this message is resurfacing now, in 2026, we must look beyond the sensationalism and into the heart of a saint who claimed to see the shadow of the future, falling across a world that had forgotten its creator. The narrative of the 3 days of darkness is not a modern invention. It is rooted in biblical archetypes: the 9th plague of Egypt, the darkness at the crucifixion, and the apocalyptic imagery of the 6th seal. However, the message attributed to Padre Pio, allegedly transmitted to a commission in the mid-1950s, strips away the poetic abstraction and replaces it with a logistical nightmare. In these letters, the Saint of Pietrelcina describes a world that has reached a tipping point of spiritual and moral decay. He warns that a moment is coming when the justice of God will be enacted through the very elements of nature, resulting in a global blackout that is both physical and metaphysical. The forgotten aspect of this message lies in its specific instructions. A protocol for survival that sounds more like a spiritual fallout manual than a traditional religious sermon. Why must we consider if Padre Pio actually saw the future? For the skeptic, these are the ramblings of a medieval mind trapped in the modern world. But for those who study his life, his accuracy rate is unsettling. He reportedly predicted the papacy of Karol Wojtyła, John Paul decades before it happened, and described global shifts with the precision of a geopolitical analyst. When Padre Pio spoke of the 3 days of darkness, he didn't speak of ifs, he spoke of whens. He described a night of the cold, a sudden, supernatural drop in temperature accompanied by a thunder so loud it would shake the foundations of the earth. This wasn't just weather. It was a cosmic reset. The core of the forgotten message involves the signs of the approaching hour. Padre Pio spoke of a period where human ingenuity would reach its peak while human morality hit its nadir. He described a world where technology would create a false light that blinds men to the true light of the Spirit. In 2026, as we stand at the crossroads of artificial intelligence and digital dependency, his warning feels less like a 1950s relic and more like a contemporary diagnostic. The blackout he foresaw isn't just about a failure of the power grid. It's about the failure of the human ego. He predicted that before the 3 days begin, the world would experience an era of mockery and confusion, where the truth is hidden in plain sight but ignored by the masses. The specific instructions found in the forgotten message are what truly capture the imagination. Padre Pio allegedly warned that when the great shaking begins, people must stay indoors, lock their doors, and close their windows. Most curiously, he warned against looking out. This instruction has sparked decades of theological debate. Why not look out? Some interpret this as a psychological protection against the terror of the abyss, while others suggest a more literal, supernatural danger. The message emphasizes that the only light that will pierce this darkness will be that of blessed beeswax candles. To the modern mind, the idea of a candle being more effective than a high-tech LED lantern seems absurd. Yet in the context of Padre Pio's mysticism, the candle represents a consecrated light, a symbol of faith that cannot be extinguished by the forces of the dark. Furthermore, the message details the cleansing effect of the darkness. Padre Pio described this event not as the end of the world, but as the end of an age. He saw a world that would emerge from these 72 hours of silence as a transformed place. The forgotten part of the message is the hope it offers. He spoke of a great springtime for humanity, where the survivors would live in a state of renewed harmony with the divine and the natural world. The 3 days of darkness were, in his view, a necessary surgery to remove the cancer of pride and hatred from the human heart. If he truly saw the future, then the darkness is not the tragedy. The tragedy is the state of the world that makes the darkness necessary. Logistical preparedness, Padre Pio suggested stocking food, water, and spiritual aids parallels the prepper movements of today, but with a distinct spiritual twist. He wasn't advocating for a bunker mentality. Instead, he was calling for a domestic monastery. He believed that the home should be a place where the rosary is the primary shield. In his messages, the rosary is not just a string of beads. It is a weapon, as he famously called it, that connects the soul to a frequency that the coming darkness cannot disrupt. This is the forgotten secret of survival. But the physical preparation is only a support for the spiritual reality. As we analyze the current state of global instability, the prophecies of Padre Pio gain a new layer of urgency. We are seeing the earthquakes in diverse places and the signs in the sun and moon that he mentioned as precursors. But perhaps the most profound part of his vision was the sign of the cross in the sky. He predicted that before the darkness falls, the sign will be visible to every human being on the planet, giving everyone one last moment of clarity to choose their path. This universal warning is a common theme in Marian apparitions, but Padre Pio's version is uniquely visceral, grounded in his own experience of the cross through his stigmata. The skepticism surrounding these messages is understandable. The letters have been passed through many hands, translated, and perhaps embellished. However, the spirit of the message remains consistent with Padre Pio's known character. A fierce love for humanity, coupled with a total refusal to compromise on the reality of sin and judgment. He saw a future where man's attempt to be his own God would lead to a spectacular collapse. If 3 days of darkness is indeed the forgotten message, it serves as a wake-up call for a generation that believes it has conquered the shadows with fiber optics and satellite arrays. In 2026, as we look at the frailty of our global systems, the vulnerability of the internet, the instability of the climate, and the volatility of politics, Padre Pio's vision seems less like science fiction and more like science friction. It is the friction between an unchanging spiritual law and a rapidly changing material world. The message is forgotten because it is uncomfortable. It demands that we acknowledge our limits. It demands that we prepare our homes not just with batteries and beams, our part, brutal to man. To conclude, whether Padre Pio literally saw a 3-day global blackout or was speaking in the profound metaphors of a mystic, the warning stands as a testament to the idea that our civilization is not as permanent as we think. The 3 days of darkness represent the moment when the noise of the world is silenced, so that the voice of the Creator can be heard again. Padre Pio's forgotten message is a call to be the light in the window, for a world that is rapidly losing its way. He didn't just see the future, he saw the eternal present, where the choices we make today determine whether we will fear the darkness or welcome the dawn. The preparation begins in the heart, and as the friar of San Giovanni Rotondo would say, pray, hope, and don't worry. But as his forgotten message adds, it wouldn't hurt to have a blessed candle ready, just in case.